She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Stop acting like we're married. You don't get to decide where I go or who I'm with." Everyone laughed. I smiled and said nothing. But when she came back from her little weekend getaway, her favorite tea suddenly didn't taste right, and the neighbor told her exactly why. My girlfriend, Jessica, and I have what you might call a philosophical divide about reality itself. In my view, if you're living in someone's home, eating their food, and using their Wi-Fi, you're in a partnership. Jessica sees it differently. She's the sun, and I'm just a small planet caught in her orbit. We've been together 2 years, and for the past 6 months, she's been living at my place. My name's on the mortgage, my name's on the bills, and my name's on the little plaque by the front door that reads the Wilsons. Something she bought without asking me, which in hindsight feels hilariously premature. I'm a simple guy. I like quiet. I work from home doing graphic design, have a couple close friends, and think a wild Friday night means trying new frozen pizza brand. Jessica, however, thrives on spectacle. Her life's a constant show, and her audience is her trio of best friends, a noisy, dramatic chorus I secretly call the Harpies. Their names are Tiffany, Brittany, and the third one always slips my mind. Let's call her Chardonnay. The whole thing started last weekend. I was in the kitchen making dinner when Jessica waltzed in, phone pressed her ear, already dressed to go out. She was deep in a loud, one-sided conversation with the Harpies. "Oh my God, yes, I'm so in," she shouted. "A weekend away is exactly what I need." "No, of course he's not coming. Don't be ridiculous." She hung up, grinning ear to ear. "Good news. The girls and I are heading to the lake for the weekend. We're leaving tomorrow." That was the first I'd heard of it. "Oh, okay," I said, stirring the pasta sauce. "Sounds fun. Which lake are you going to?" It was a normal question, the kind any reasonable person might ask their live-in partner. But Jessica gave me a look like I'd asked her to solve calculus in hieroglyphics. She let out a sharp, mocking laugh just as her friend Tiffany walked in. "Can you believe this?" Jessica said, rolling her eyes, "He wants to know where I'm going." Tiffany snorted, giving me a once-over like I was a thrift store chair she regretted buying. Then Jessica faced me again, planted her hands on her hips, and delivered what she clearly thought was an iconic line, one that would echo through my near future. "Stop acting like we're married. You don't get a say in where I go or who I'm with." By now, all 3 Harpies had gathered in my kitchen, and their laughter filled the room. They thought it was hilarious, a man in his own house being told he had no right to ask a simple question. Absolute comedy gold. I stood there, wooden spoon in hand, pasta sauce dripping onto the floor. And I didn't get angry. I didn't argue. A strange calm came over me, a kind of serene clarity. The part of my brain that had been trying to make this relationship work quietly packed its bags, tipped its hat, and left. I looked at her smug, self-satisfied smile and gave one back, big, friendly, and completely hollow. "You know what?" I said, voice light and cheerful. "You're absolutely right. My mistake." They laughed again, assuming I was backing down. Jessica even patted my cheek in that patronizing way she does before they swept out of the house for some pre-weekend cocktail get-together. When the door closed, I stood in the quiet kitchen for a long moment, the only sound the bubbling of the sauce. "Okay," I said to myself, as a new, much more interesting idea began forming. Not married. No say. Got it. The weekend was going to be a good one, just not for her. Update 1. The moment Jessica's car, no doubt stuffed with 5 kinds of glitter and a case of rose, disappeared down the street Friday afternoon, I got to work. My first mission wasn't packing or cleaning. It was something far more strategic. I walked next door to see Mrs. Gable. She's an 80-year-old widow with a sweet smile, an award-winning rose garden, and a neighborhood surveillance system that could rival the CIA. Nothing happens on our street without her knowing about it. I brought her a slice of the lemon cake she loves and joined her on the porch. We chatted about the weather and the moral failings of the local squirrels before I said, "Mrs. Gable, I've got a bit of situation. I could use your help. It involves a touch of theater." Her eyes lit up. She adores drama even more than roses. I explained everything, told her exactly what Jessica had said, Stop acting like we're married. No exaggeration needed. The truth was incriminating enough. By the end, Mrs. Gable was patting my hand with a look of righteous indignation. "That shameless little hussy," she declared. "Don't you worry, Tom. You leave it to me. What's my line?" I gave her a simple one. When Jessica eventually came back and realized she couldn't get inside, her part of the plan was simple. Act surprised and drop a few carefully chosen details. Mrs. Sewell Gable, my trusted neighbor and partner in chaos, took their role with the energy of a Broadway star on opening night. With my accomplice ready, I headed home to launch what I proudly called Operation Bachelor Pad Revival. For the past 6 months, my place had been smothered under an ocean of beige throw pillows, decorative bowls that held absolutely nothing, and abstract art that looked like someone's printer had run out of ink halfway through. It was time to reclaim the territory. I didn't just pack up Jessica's stuff. I curated it, armed with a stack of boxes and a thick black marker. I began labeling like a man on a mission. Box 1, everyday clothes. Box 2, fancy outfits for fancy events I wasn't invited to. Box 3, my personal favorite, glittery magic dresses that leave sparkles on everything I own. Her army of nearly identical high heels went into a carton marked a podiatrist's nightmare. Then came the avalanche of makeup and skincare, boxed neatly in label face paint and various goops. By Saturday morning, every physical trace of Jessica had been contained. I hired a couple of movers from an app, loaded up a 10x5 storage unit, and paid for 1 month, a generous act of non-marital courtesy. If you ask me, once the house was purged, the real fun began. I went on a shopping spree. The beige rug? Gone, replaced with a glorious patch of AstroTurf that looked like a mini football field. Her sterile white sofa? Sold. In its place, a massive black leather recliner sectional, complete with more cup holders than I could ever possibly use. Her dainty, minimalist coffee table? Out! A non-working but fully lit vintage pinball machine from Craigslist took its place. It didn't need to work. It just needed to glow. Next stop, the bedroom. Down came that bizarre macrame thing she'd hung over bed, and up went a framed poster of a grizzly bear mid-salmon catch. It felt right. And then came my crowning achievement. Saturday afternoon, I drove to the local animal shelter just to look. An hour later, I returned home with Gus, a 120-pound St. Bernard puppy. Gus was not small. He was a drooling, fluffy wrecking ball with the heart of an angel. Within minutes, he claimed the new leather couch as his throne and started snoring like a lumberjack. By evening, my home had transformed. No longer a showroom for beige misery. It was now a shrine to unapologetic bachelorhood. I spent the rest of the weekend tossing a ball for Gus, sipping beer straight from the bottle, and changing every password. The new Wi-Fi name? Get your own Wi-Fi. Password? Not married law. Sunday night arrived. I was sprawled across my 16-cup holder sofa with Gus's massive head in my lap when I got the alert. Doorbell motion detected. Showtime. Jessica appeared on camera, tan from her lake weekend, humming as she walked up the path. She slid her key into the lock. It didn't budge. Again, nothing. Her expression turned from confusion to irritation. Then came the banging. From the couch, Gus lifted his head, gave one deep woof, and went back to snoring. My phone started buzzing, Jessica calling. I watched it vibrate on top of the pinball machine, took a sip of beer, and declined. She called again. Declined. 5 rounds later, the pounding intensified. "Tom, open the door." "What's wrong with you?" "My key isn't working." Silence for me. Everything was going according to plan. After a few more minutes, she stopped and began pacing. And right on cue, a porch light flicked on next door. Mrs. Gable, in her robe and slippers, watering can in hand. Showtime indeed. "Oh, Jessica, dear, is that you?" Mrs. Gable called, her tone perfectly balanced between concern and curiosity. Mrs. Gable. "Thank God. My key isn't working. Is Tom home? I can see the lights on." "Oh, Tom's home," Mrs. Gable replied, nodding with sage satisfaction. "He's had quite the weekend. A total transformation." "Transformation? What do you mean?" "Well, Mrs. Gable said, leaning in conspiratorially. He told me the good news. Said you two aren't married. So he decided to celebrate his freedom. Redecorated the whole house. Says a man's place now very rugged. Jessica just stared at her, mouth open. And the best part, Mrs. Gable added, her eyes twinkling, he got himself a dog. A great big St. Bernard, named Gus. He said he wanted a loyal companion who doesn't talk back. Isn't that adorable? Jessica's face was pure art. Disbelief, outrage, heartbreak, all at once. She turned toward the window and pressed her face against the glass. From my spot on the sofa, I could see her reaction as she took in the chaos. The turf rug, the glowing pinball machine, and Gus, snoring soundly on her former seat. She let out a strangled sound, halfway between a shriek and a sob, then yanked out her phone. Within seconds, my screen exploded with all-caps fury. I waited for the perfect moment, then sent one calm message back. You told me to stop acting like we're married. You said I don't get a say. I agree. This is my house, and you don't get a say in how I live in it. Your non-marital belongings have been safely stored at 123 Storage Way, Unit 42, Access Code 123. I finished my text with one final line. You have 1 month. Have a great life. Then I blocked her number. Through the doorbell camera, I watched her read the message. She looked down at her phone, then up at the window, then back to her screen. And then it happened. A full-body scream of pure, unfiltered fury. She hurled her phone onto my lawn like it had personally betrayed her. It was magnificent. She kept pacing, shouting, and waving her arms for a good 10 minutes before her friend Tiffany, the lead harpy herself, pulled up to rescue her. By the next day, the predictable storm began online. Vague posts about betrayal, about men who can't handle a strong woman. It was textbook, but I still had one move left to play. Final update. The social media meltdown was exactly what I expected. Dramatic, tedious, and painfully unoriginal. Jessica and her crew flooded their stories with sad piano music, long captions about self-worth, and removing toxic people. It was so formulaic, it was almost performance art. They were trying to paint me as a villain, but they were doing it with a paint-by-numbers kit. I let them run with it for a couple of days. Then, I decided to drop a little context of my own. No direct replies. No arguments. Just a post, visible only to mutual friends. It was a simple photo album. The first image, my living room from a month ago. Beige couch, empty bowls. The cold, sterile charm of a dentist's waiting room. Caption, before. The second image, my current living room. The glorious black recliner sofa. The green turf rug. The glowing pinball machine and Gus, my majestic St. Bernard. Sprawled out like royalty. Caption, after. The final photo, a selfie of me and Gus, both grinning. Caption, redecorated to match my relationship status. Apparently, I'm not married and don't get say in anything, so I'm celebrating my independence. Hashtag bachelor pad, hashtag dog is my copullet, hashtag no se no stay. That post detonated like a social media nuke. The perfect mix of petty humor and canine charm was irresistible. Friends who had initially pitted Jessica now saw the full picture. The story flipped overnight. It wasn't psycho boyfriend kicks girlfriend out anymore. It was girlfriend says relationship means nothing, shocked when boyfriend agrees. Jessica's allies went quiet fast. Turns out it's hard to play the victim when the supposed villain is posting adorable selfies with a giant dog. Her downfall was swift. I heard she crashed at Tiffany for a bit. That lasted less than a week. Apparently, Tiffany got tired of Jessica's constant complaining and refusal to pitch in for rent. Eventually, Jessica had to move back in with her parents, 3 hours away. She tried one last move, a legal threat. I got a letter from her lawyer demanding access to the house for her wrongfully held property and compensation for being made homeless. My lawyer's response was polite but lethal. A copy of my mortgage, the lease in my name only, and a simple question: whether Jessica would like to reimburse me for 6 months of rent, utilities, and food she'd enjoyed as an uninvited, non-married guest. We never heard back. The funniest twist came about a month later. I was at the dog park, chatted with another owner while Gus proudly chased a tennis ball. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone approaching, hesitant, awkward. It was Chardonnay, the third harpy. "Hey, Tom," she started. "Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about that night at your house. We were way out of line." I shrugged. Jessica said what she said. I just took her at her word. Chardonnay sighed, shaking her head. "Yeah, she's the lot. She called me last week complaining that her parents are making her get a job. Said it's all your fault for ruining her life." She glanced over at Gus, now trying and failing to fit 3 tennis balls in his mouth. "Honestly, looks like you're doing just fine." She was right. I was more than fine. The house no longer felt like a beige museum. It finally felt like mine. The pinball machine still doesn't work, but it sparks plenty of conversations. And Gus? Best roommate I've ever had. Loyal, hilarious, and blissfully unconcerned with human drama. If this whole saga taught me anything, it's that sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate at all. It's just taking people at their word. Jessica told me exactly who she was and what our relationship meant to her. I simply agreed. She said I didn't get a say. Now, she has no say in my life, and I have none in hers. And honestly, me, Gus, and a slightly broken pinball machine. That's a pretty perfect ending.